Hey friends, welcome back to LNER Steam on the small screen. I don't know how many times I'm going to get away with saying that, but it's the second video that I've ever done on here. I thought, why not? And welcome to the loft. This is my railway room. So as you can see, the layout is around me. Some of you may know me from my Instagram account, which is also called LNER Steam. So welcome to the new platform that I'm exploring. If not, please go and check out my Instagram account. I'd be very, very grateful. So I thought I'd start off by introducing myself. So my name is Ashley. I'm currently 28 years old and I am from London in the UK. God, that sounds like a game show intro, doesn't it?
I am Ashley, I'm 28 and I'm from London.
We'll cut that bit out. As I'm sure it's the same with many of us, it was the little blue tank engine himself that got me into the hobby. Although it was much more of a indoctrination, I would say, because my parents, I was told I was only 6 months old when this happened. They bought me a Hornby Thomas train set and they used to put me in the middle of a loop of track and then just turn it on and let it go. So it really is indoctrination as far as I'm concerned. I wish I could now bill them for how much this hobby has cost me, but I'm pretty sure I only have myself to blame for that. The first non-Thomas train that I was ever bought was a Hornby Top Link Mallard, which was very swish back in the 90s, and I was very, very happy with it, and it still just about works today. It's tender driven loco, really lovely thing, and with a bit of TLC you can get those models working beautifully. But that's an aside. The rest of my collection has grown over a period of about 25 years. As you can imagine, I do have a particular interest in LNER locomotives, that being the namesake of the channel, and of course that is the London and North Eastern Railway. Not to be confused with the London North Eastern Railway, which is the current company. As exciting as they are, this is the company that existed, one of the big four, from 1923 to 1947 in the UK, and they operated the East Coast Main Line, blah 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 blah, A4 Pacifics, Flying Scotsman, all of that good stuff. But I do have a general interest in railways, no matter where they're from or time period. I mean, honestly, I am that guy that if there's a train, I'm easily distracted. As I mentioned earlier, my first non-Thomas train was a Mallard model, and I think that really sowed the seeds for my interest in the LNER specifically. But the conscious decision that I made to start collecting LNER locomotives really only came about in the past couple of years since starting my new layout, because I wanted to sort of focus on something a little bit more prototypical that was based on an actual time period and an actual region within the UK. And I suppose the easiest way to do that is to pick one of the railway companies to sort of base the layout about, or at least I sort of found that was my easiest way to really focus the research that I was doing, because as I'm sure all of you know, there is just so much information out there to digest and to get into. You could do something as specific as the Southern Railway in the summer of 1947, and yet the wealth of knowledge around just that period of time is almost limitless. That's a tip. An unsolicited tip if anyone was asking for one. For anyone who's thinking about starting a model railway, try and pick a time period and a region. I will say that I've gone for something really quite broad, because my layout is set anywhere between 1923 and 1947. I mean, I have locomotives that I run on this current layout from the old North British Railway all the way up in Scotland to the East Anglian coast and the Great Eastern Railway. Locomotives that would have never met, never crossed paths in the days of the LNER. So, there is a gap in my prototypicalness, but my layout for me is really more of just an amalgamation of the glory days of the LNER and steam in general, really, because even the other locomotives that I do collect tend to be from eras 2 or 3. So it's things like Stanier's Princess Royals or Coronation class locomotives, or DWR Kings and Castles, Southern Railway Lord Nelsons and stuff, although don't tell anyone because I haven't bought that yet. Architecturally, I've kind of gone with the GCR theme, so that's the Great Central Railway, for a couple of reasons. One, because Bachmann Scenecraft make a wonderful range of GCR buildings, station canopies, booking offices, waiting rooms, signal boxes, a goods terminal, some really nice steps down. So it's a really good basis for someone who is a little bit green when it comes to scratch building buildings, although I do want to eventually give that a go. But also because the area where I grew up was on the Great Central Main Line, or the ex-Great Central Main Line, which is now run by Chiltern Railways. So I sort of have a bit of a, I suppose, personal link to it, which is also where the name of the railway comes from, or the name of the layout comes from, and the station itself. So that's Breakspear, for anyone who is new to the channel. And it's not the name of a place in real life, and obviously this is not based on a real life station, but it's a name that has a lot of use around the area that I grew up in. So again, it was another way to sort of personalize it for myself, but without locking myself into doing something that was, you know, prototypical. This is the first time I've really had the opportunity, both in time and money, in space, and really in the knowledge of the LNER, to do a layout to this extent. And so realistically, this is 25 years of dreaming about making a layout coming to life. A lot of the things that I thought about when I was a little boy, 10, and younger really even, that I would sort of think, oh, I've always wanted, a bay platform, or I've always wanted there to be sort of one of those corrugated goods unloading sheds. I've always wanted tunnels. I've always wanted, bridge, or a big station, a big engine shed, a turntable. And, these are things that I can finally get around to doing. But it also means that while I go, there's lots of revisions and changes and tearing up track and putting it back down. For those of you who have followed me on Instagram, you will know that I am notoriously indecisive when it comes to laying track. Almost every single time I lay a new area of track, I will revise it, if not revise it 2 or 3 more times. But I think the reason I do that is because I'm really striving for, what I feel is perfect for what I want to create. So, and that's not necessarily perfect for you guys, or prototypically perfect, but it is perfect to the vision I've got of it in my mind. And I think that's the main thing when you're making a model railway. You just want to do something that is creating the dream. Oh, that's so cringe. So Breakspear really started back in August 2019 when I decided to tear up the old layout that was there before. So, without a name, just with a sort of rough idea in mind, I just went ahead and tore everything up and laid a new baseboard and, painted everything, got everything clean slate. And then I started to just build from there. There was a couple of fundamentals that I knew that I wanted. So I wanted to upgrade from having 2 running tracks to 4 running tracks. I knew that I wanted it to be a town, so I was looking for a large shed, I was looking for a large station, but there have been many iterations of how that has looked over the 1.5, almost 2 years that I've been working on it now. Some things have stayed the same, so the station area is just off here to my left, and as you can kind of see behind, the shed area has remained in the same sort of area over there, but the sheds have swapped around. I think it was over on this side over here when I first started, and it's now over here, and there's a turntable in the middle, which it wasn't before, and the tracks used to come over from that side, where they now come over from this side. I thought that it would have been a bit sort of fruitless to just take you through step by step everything I did, because in all honesty, the amount I've changed each step, I don't think even I would be able to keep up with it. So I can't expect any of you to keep up with it, especially if you're completely new to this channel. Okay, so let's take a look at the progress I've made so far on the layout. Okay, so I thought I'd start off with a full loop of the layout to lift the curtain, if you will. So please welcome my wonderful assistant, my Hornby B1, who's going to help show you around. As you can see, she's just left the station and she's now coming past the MPD area. So we've got the coaling tower, the turntable, and of course the sheds themselves. And then we sweep around this corner. More on what's going to happen with that corner later, and then past the low relief factories and straight into a tunnel. Now, This is a part of the layout that you guys don't usually see, I don't usually show, because there's not too much behind there. It's essentially the actual storage part of the loft. So I've put a divider in between it, and then basically it's just a raised platform where the 4 tracks run through, as you can see. And then it comes around this corner and back through into the railway room. And then it's a scene that you guys are probably familiar with. And here she comes to a stop, having done a full loop of Breakspear. The station itself is made up of 4 platforms. So at the back of the baseboard you have the 2 express platforms, and at the front you have the 2 branch line platforms. The platforms themselves are scratch made, so they're 2 pieces of 9mm plywood doubled up and drilled onto the baseboard, then lined on the edges with Metcalfe brick sheets and then painted with grey and white paint. Directly out of the station on the left hand side you have these sweeping curves that pan round, and they're made with Hornby or Pico FlexiTrack, and they not only are the continuation of the main line but also the connection for the station to the MPD area. As you can see, we have the water tower that services all of the cranes, and the coal tower itself, and a little mess room and other building that I've put in there for the railway staff, and of course a service pit, which is absolutely way too clean for now. So when I do start putting the ballast down, I expect to see a lot of coal around there. Of course, there is then the motorized Pico turntable, and then on to the sheds themselves. And these are Bachmann Scenecraft sheds. There were originally 4 lanes and then 8, and I clearly have no self-control because it's now 10, but all of the lanes have these Pico inspection pits dug in as you enter. I do have 4 future projects that I want to take you guys through, though. Of course, they might change, so this is why I'm only going to loosely show you and talk through what it is that I want to actually do with each area. The big elephant in the room is, no, I have not ballasted my track, and for those of you who have followed me on Instagram as well, you will know that that is a point of contention between myself and my followers, because they have wanted me to do it for a long time. I have also wanted to do it for a long time but have not got round to doing it, but I will get round to it, I promise. So here are the 4 new project areas on my layout. So the first area of my layout that I really want to update and to finish is this end of the station. And as you can see, there's this wonderful Bachmann Scenecraft covered stairway up to a sort of bridge level. Now the bridge was made by my dad, who has been an absolute lifesaver when it's come to my modelling, because there's a lot that I don't know how to do myself. So, you know, very much thank you to my dad. But what I want to do with this area is actually now turn it into a ticket hall. So this is my current plan, which is a little bit audacious considering I've never scratch built anything in my life. But as you can see, there is a ticket hall with a sort of station hotel / pub kind of thing. I mean, it's a GCR inspired design, sort of based on Leicester Station. So let me know what you think. The next part isn't too major in terms of what it will look like, but I do think it will have quite an effective finish. And essentially it's just this little strip of unused land, I suppose you could call it, in front of the station and just off to the left. Now I look back at the station, I think it's kind of a bizarre shape, and I think it could be better utilised. So this is what I'm currently planning. In fairness, this is a pretty busy drawing. I think is the polite way of putting it. But essentially the lined black area is going to be raised up to the same level as the platform. So it'll be 18mm of ply, and it will just give me a good station, and I can put a road in there, a bus stop maybe. So it's just a little bit more space that I think just looks more realistic. The next part is this corner with the sweeping curves, which in fairness does look pretty tatty. I think at the moment, I mean, it's very much sort of a bit of a dumping ground for a couple of spare bits over there. So the plan will be something like this, which again is a very audacious plan for someone who's never scratch built, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. It's a retaining wall that will then raise up an area with essentially, I think, a Georgian style terrace I'm going to go for. I've actually started measuring this one out as well, so hey, you know, I've made a start. And then the last area I wanted to cover in this video is this other corner, and it's kind of just an area that I don't really use much. I don't really film this corner, I don't take photos in this corner, and I just think it's a bit of a wasted space. So my current plan is to do something like this. In fairness, again, it's a pretty busy drawing and I appreciate there's a lot to look at, so feel free to pause it if you want to have a closer look. It's another raised section that will give me some interesting sort of tunnel entrances and exits to film and to model. And it's an area to put my carriage shed, which you may have seen in a proper space with an area around that I can do a sort of yard in, and it will sort of fit to the back of the shed area. It's a bit more of a conceptual one, I think, for me at this point. I'm not fully sure how I want it to look, but I've tried to draw a sort of side view of it. So, you know, if you can get your head around my messy drawing, then, you know, you sort of have an idea of what I'm planning. One thing that I've become super aware of, especially through the lockdowns that we've all been experiencing, is that this is a hobby that obviously we are supposed to enjoy. So I now don't hold myself or my progress that I make on the layout to any time constraints. So these layout updates that will come after this, I don't want to commit to saying, oh, I'll do a layout update every month or every week or anything like that, because there's potentially a chance that I won't have made any. But I think it's important to just be transparent about that from the start so that you guys know that, but just to set the expectations for myself as well. So I think that's kind of everything for now. It kind of brings you up to speed with what I've been doing and where I'm at and what I have planned. I would absolutely love to answer all of your questions, so please put them in the comments below. It can be on anything to do with the layout or my collection or my interest. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, please. Thank you very much. I'd be very, very grateful. Have a great day. See ya. Still too hot. Okay, but the branding though. Anyways.